Hello and welcome everyone. We are going to start our youth-led community transformations webinar now. I'm delighted and warm welcome to the many young people from many parts of the globe who are joining us today and many others as well. Thank you all for joining. I will ask, this session is being recorded and we will ask that people stay on mute. I think that we've all been experiencing Zoom calls, and if people are on mute, it helps the flow, and we will certainly have a question period later on. I am Janet Longmore, and I am the founder and CEO of Digital Opportunity Trust. And I'm joined today by Sharon Nwangweso. Hi, Sharon. A young Kenyan-Canadian social entrepreneur who is the founder of Quake Lab, a diversity and inclusion group. And Sharon is also leading DOT's youth engagement initiatives in response to COVID-19, mobilizing her peer social innovators to tackle the pandemic in their communities. And Sharon will tell us much more about that later today. I want to take a moment before we kick into the main agenda to recognize the Catalyst 2030 collective. This Catalyst 2030 is sponsoring these Catalyzing Change webinars, and it was launched in January of this year. It is the largest network of social entrepreneurs in the world, and I am very inspired and honored to be a co-founding member of this group. It is supported by the Schwab Foundation, Ashoka, the Skoll Foundation, Echoing Green, and many more. We were initially launched to catalyze action towards the SDGs. However, with COVID-19, we have pivoted very ably, and as we speak, colleagues and social entrepreneurs around the world are literally working 24/7 to address the challenges, particularly for many of the more vulnerable in our communities, and certainly advocating for policy changes at the government level and with business and many other sectors to know that we will build back better and be more resilient after this. So thank you to all at Catalyst 2030. And let me take a little bit of time to tell you about my organization, Digital Opportunity Trust. DOT is a youth-led movement of daring social innovators who support youth. We support youth to be innovators and leaders to create and apply solutions that have a positive impact in their communities. And DOT is also an international organization with a footprint in 25 countries and offices in 7 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa and the Middle East. At DOT, we are well positioned to support youth to tackle COVID-19. We know that this is an unprecedented time in history, and it is never more important to mobilize the talent and energy of young people. In fact, the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, recommends that one of the primary tactics to combat the spread of coronavirus will be to engage local youth and youth networks because of their reach and influence. And DOT youth have the trust of their communities and knowledge of what is most needed in them. They have the ability to adapt and respond quickly to an emerging crisis situation. They have the digital skills, gender equality, and facilitation knowledge, which is necessary to support the emerging need for increased digital inclusion, access, and critical knowledge. Again, we are seeing the devastating impact of the digital divide, and in particular, the gender digital divide during this time of crisis, and young people are there to help. The DOT Youth Network, they are located in some of the most underserved and at-risk locations on the globe, operating with some of the most vulnerable populations. And we believe that youth in particular are particularly well equipped to deal with COVID-19. So DOT is rapidly responding to COVID-19 in 2 ways. One, by placing youth in positions of leadership, where they are facilitating digital skills programs, providing digital coaching, and supporting marginalized groups to access this new wave of digital education. There are many learning platforms emerging from this crisis with the goal of providing education to the many, many out-of-school children and connecting youth and adults to learning opportunities. However, there are large groups that are excluded from these opportunities because of a lack of digital skills and digital literacy. And this is where DOT's Youth Network comes in. Our youth are trained facilitators with experience in delivering digital skills training. They are coaching people through available digital curriculum and supporting people to gain essential digital skills as they need to access opportunities. In Lebanon and Jordan, our team has launched Education Anywhere, through which they are coaching entrepreneurs to gain the skills they need to put their businesses online, how to market a business online, and more. And the connection and support they are providing as coaches and digital guides is invaluable in a situation where learners are struggling to cope with online courses because of low digital skills or competing priorities like childcare, which we know mostly affect women. Self-directed learning is a challenge for a lot of people. And for these reasons, Education Anywhere is ensuring that young women, parents, and people with low digital skills can access these opportunities with support and guidance. And DOT is also responding to COVID-19 through an initiative called the DOT Youth Street Team. And I love this initiative. The DOT Youth Street Team, it's a coordinated network of youth in Africa and the Middle East who are responding to COVID-19 with needs-based interventions. They are DOT's feet on the street, youth who are already in their communities, taking action in very impactful ways, and we are supporting them. Our first street team consists of 50 youth from 11 countries, and we are supporting them by connecting them with partners, information, tools, and learning opportunities so that they can scale their initiatives and build back better, build more resilient communities. The street team is made up of youth who have active initiatives related to community outreach, digital education, and e-health, and gender equality. Gender equality, especially since we know how COVID-19 is affecting so many large numbers of young and women around the globe. And Sharon has joined with me today from the Dot Youth Street Team to share with all of you more about the impacts that these young people are having. As I said earlier, Sharon herself is a social entrepreneur and has long been engaged with DOT. And she's joined us to manage the Street Team initiative and mobilize her peers to take action. So Sharon, I'm going to hand this over to you to share with all of us some of the amazing ways that Dot Youth Street Team are catalyzing change.
Thanks, Janet. And hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Nyangweso. I am the founder of Quake Lab, a diversity and inclusion social enterprise that I run in Canada and also in my home country in Kenya. And as Janet said, I'm also working with DOT to engage the Dot Youth Street Team. And before I get started, I do want to note that I think we have a couple of our street team on the call right now. So, you know, wave at them in the comments, give them a thumbs up because they're working very hard and I'm genuinely impressed that they've made the time to be here. So the Dot Youth Street Team is a really exciting initiative. And as Janet mentioned, we've engaged 50 youth from 11 countries in our first cohort. The youth on the street team are pretty remarkable. So DOT's network of youth are real change makers who are on the front lines of their communities with on the ground and rapid grassroots response to many issues. So we weren't surprised to see how quickly the Dot Youth Network mobilized to tackle COVID. And that's why I was so excited to join and make sure their initiatives were as impactful as possible. So today, I'm going to try and spotlight some of the youth that are part of the street team. The 50 initiatives we're supporting right now represent a pretty large range of activities, everything from making masks and supporting healthcare workers, access personal protective equipment, to social media campaigns and communities about mental health and well-being for isolated single mothers, to information campaigns and refugee camps, to multimedia outreach that includes radio, music videos, really great music videos, telehealth lines, to e-learning platforms and content in local language and reaching unconnected populations. So there's so many great initiatives that I could showcase for you today, but there are 4 in particular that I want to highlight. So one of these initiatives is being led by a young youth in refugee camp in Uganda. There we go, there's Olivier. The second is a young woman who's working with Syrian refugees in Jordan. And the third and fourth are 2 youth in Malawi and Kenya who are working on COVID relief in prisons. So Olivier Nkuzrwanda, he runs the Refugee Innovation Center in Ramwanja Refugee Settlement, which is home to nearly 70,000 refugees in Uganda. Olivia founded the Refugee Innovation Center a few years ago to create meaningful learning and community engagement opportunities for his fellow youth. He offered entrepreneurship and digital skills training predominantly. But now, Olivia is mobilizing this very same youth network to make sure that as many people as possible know about COVID-19 and how to protect themselves. He's doing this by mobilizing a team of youth who are going door to door, following safe distancing practices, of course, and they sign up residents to WhatsApp groups where they can get immediate information. He's also creating very popular and catchy songs and videos targeting children and youth in the camp to promote good hygiene practices and awareness of COVID. And so far, they have reached a whopping 4,200 community members and 450 households. The work Olivia is doing is critical because an outbreak in a refugee camp would place huge strain on fragile healthcare services. And youth-led outreach like what Olivia is doing is exactly what the UNHCR and IOM are recommending. One of the primary ways to combat the spread of the virus in camp settings is to engage local youth and youth groups as trusted communication channels. Olivia is setting up important community communication pathways that will be essential for prevention, recovery, and also resilience. And then we have Latifa Noor. Latifa is the founder of a social enterprise called Psych Being. She uses technology to address mental health issues in Kenya and connect people to essential mental health services. And through Psych Being, Latifa has launched a community COVID-19 response called #TimeToShare. I recommend checking it out. Through Time to Share, she's running live video chats on social media about mental health and positive mindset. And she's also addressing important COVID-related mental health issues like how to vent frustration and anger and how to deal with family challenges. Latifa is engaging professional coaches, psychologists, and experts in her outreach to ensure the communities are getting accurate and important information about how to cope. And Latifa's work is important because research is already showing that the pandemic is affecting mental health at a population level, with widespread increases in anxiety, feelings of isolation, and concerns about access to mental health care, excuse me. So social isolation, employment, uncertainty, and the virus itself will continue to shock the health and well-being of people around the world. In a place like Kenya, where mental health support is often stigmatized and challenging to find, Latifa is providing critical lifeline through Psych Being. And lastly, but not least, Jaraya Misiaje in Malawi and Hussein Abdul Razak in Kenya. So Jaraya is a young woman from Malawi and Hussein is a young man in Kenya. Both of them are working on COVID-19 relief efforts in prisons. Jaraya and Hussein are a great example of what's possible with peer networks like the .youth Street team. They've never met before, but through the Street team, they're sharing ideas and approaches. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of their initiatives and how we've brought them together through the .youth Street team. So Jaraya's work is focused on the Zomba Maximum Prison in Malawi. She's mobilized members of her community to help distribute protective materials like masks and gloves and sanitary supplies like soap, water, and sanitizers. Zomba Prison has exceeded its capacity by 200% and is already a hotspot for the rapid spread of infectious diseases. Even without COVID, the prison sees a 5% annual death rate. Without preventative measures, the spread of coronavirus in the prison could be a humanitarian disaster. The work that Jiraiya is doing is essential, and in an area with little social infrastructure, and her work bringing a community together to make positive change is incredibly impactful. Hussein is also working to provide supplies and information to a prison in his own community in Mombasa in Kenya. He's sharing information about the signs and symptoms of COVID, what to do if you suspect you have it, and how to take precautions. Now, Kenya has taken steps to release large numbers of prisoners to decongest facilities and allow for better social distancing. But there's still a lack of adequate information being shared with prisoners. Jiraiya and Hussein are each working on their initiatives in separate countries, but through the Youth Street team, we've been able to connect them to each other, as well as to other youth who are targeting marginalized communities. This peer support means that they can share ideas and motivate each other through a complicated and highly complex task. Prisoners advocates around the world have been raising the alarm about the crisis that will unfold in prisons where distancing is literally impossible and sanitary supplies are limited or completely unavailable. We're inspired by Jiraiya and Hussein's work to advocate for and work within these highly vulnerable populations. And thank you all so much for listening to some of these great stories about how Youth are tackling COVID-19 in their communities. It's truly an honor for me to be working with them side by side and supporting them in any way they need. And there'll be many, many more. It was difficult to choose just 4, honestly, but I'm really excited that some of them are here so we can chat later on. I'll turn it back to Janet, and you can talk about how we can support youth like Olivier, Latifa, Jiraiya, and Hussein. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Sharon, so much. And you're absolutely right. There are so many inspiring stories. It was really hard to highlight for, and I'm listening to you, and I'm remembering and admiring certainly the courage of all of you who are on the street team and the over 6,000 youth that are in the DOT network. You've got the passion and the skills and the networks, but courage is something. And again, I just can't reinforce that courage, as we know, comes from the heart. And what all of you are doing in this very, very serious time is so critically important for so many. Olivier, I remember, you were with us years ago in Rwanda, and now in where you are living in Uganda, in your refugee camp. We are so inspired by everything you're doing. And Jiraiya, we met in Nairobi at the Youth Conference. I know I've got a selfie still with you, and thank you for everything. And thank you, Hussein, and thank you, Latifa, and everyone else. Part of doing this webinar was really to profile the work of young people and their responses to COVID-19, but also catalyzing change is really looking at catalyzing partnerships as well, because we're all in this together. It is a global problem and we need to collaborate. And certainly young people who are tech savvy and connected and trusted in their communities, they know how to collaborate, and they're seeking partners and seeking help. And when DOT looks at innovation, we don't just think about technology, because innovation is something that certainly comes up during a period of crisis, but it isn't just about the technology. It is about helping people, helping the unconnected get connected, helping them to facilitate learning in an online environment, reaching out in digital ways, and again, through social media and more so, to again, know that we are here to support you and that we can innovate and leverage what is already out there. So we're looking for partners who really just can support the amazing things, the excellent things that these courageous young people are doing. As I mentioned earlier, many of them, the majority of them, are in areas that are most vulnerable. Their communities are most vulnerable across the globe, but they have the skills and the knowledge and the networks to catalyze change. So there are some ways that we can seek to partner, certainly responding to the needs that the street team have identified themselves. So as we heard from Sharon, Olivier in Uganda is seeking partners to support with verified COVID-19 content for radio, YouTube, WhatsApp, and e-learning. Latifa is looking for support to grow her management skills, networks of mental health professionals, and influencers who can tell the story of her impact. Uriah and Hussein are both looking for supporters with expertise in fundraising and crowdfunding, and supporting with creating formal documents that are needs assessments so that can help them apply for funds. Each young person has a unique need to move their community initiative forward. And we at DOT are committed to matchmaking them with relevant partners. Other areas where you can help and partner is providing seed funds for some of these youth-led initiatives, or connect us to learning content that young people can facilitate in their communities as we build resilience in the communities and continue learning. Sponsor a DOT Youth Street Team cohort so that we can scale. We have massive demand for this initiative, and we again are committed to scaling both the COVID-19 responses that are needs-based and also supporting building resilience as we all move forward after this is past and beyond us. We would love as well if you could profile DOT Youth in any form of social media or traditional media. We need to get these courageous stories out, everything and every way in which we talk about their work helps them be able to do what they do much better and helps them to scale their initiative. So there are multiple ways. We have Ann Patterson here with us, who is our Director for Communications and Digital Engagement. There's her contact details. She is someone that you can connect with if you just know of ways that we can catalyze partnerships for the change that these young people are leading and in supporting them. So that's been a profile of DOT and our street teams and Education Anywhere and the work that we're doing. I'd love to open it up now to questions. I think Anne, you're going to help facilitate that, or there's probably some questions that have already come up. I see the chat has been quite active. So Anne, if I can ask you to facilitate a dialogue, would be super.
Sure, happy to. Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Sharon, for sharing these stories of youth. I think they're really incredible. And as Janet and Sharon mentioned, we have 50 youth in this first DOT Youth Street Team cohort. So we were only able to share the stories of 4 today because we only have just a short time with you. But there are 50 more of them, and many more even beyond that who we weren't able to select to be a part of this first cohort. So as Janet mentioned, we are seeking support for these youth and their individual initiatives, as well as support for future cohorts. So we're looking forward to engaging with potential partners as we move forward. And also, if you are a young person, I know we have a lot of youth who have joined us today from our broader DOT Youth network. If you're interested in joining future street team cohorts, you can join our Facebook group. I've added the link to the chat, so you can click that link and join our Facebook group, and we'll put out future calls for participation there. Unfortunately, the current group is limited to 50, but we really hope that we can support more of you as we move forward. And I see some great comments in the chat about additional amazing youth initiatives who are perhaps not a part of our cohort, but are very impactful in tackling COVID-19 in their communities. So we'll give it a few minutes if anyone has any questions. I know we do have a few street team youth on the call here. So if you have any questions for them directly, we're happy to facilitate that. If you have questions about Education Anywhere in Lebanon and Jordan, or questions for DOT, we're happy to answer those. So we'll hold the line for a minute while we wait to see if any questions come through. And if there aren't any, we'll wrap for today, and we'll look forward to connecting with you all as we move the Street Team project forward and continue to engage youth.
may I speak?
Please go ahead. Hi, Rolf.
Yeah, I was raising my hand, so I was kind of waiting for the invitation. Sorry.
Okay.
So first of all, thank you for a wonderful presentation. And this is the first time I have been introduced to your work. It's amazing. Well, I'm speechless. It's fantastic. So I would like to do whatever I can to cooperate with you guys. My name is Rolf. I am originally Norwegian. I'm half Italian, and I live in Spain. And I'm the CEO of an initiative which we call Home to Live. So you can see a little more about our work on our website, hometolive.com. But the point is that what you are doing, we are trying now to launch a worldwide initiative to bring eco-friendly solutions to the world, both within affordable housing as well as food production systems. Then typical, it's like greenhouses which are insulated with soap bubbles, fun enough. It's a very cheap technology which has been invented by our inventor 40 years ago. And one should think that it's easy to bring to market viable, cheap solutions. But both him and the our other inventor, which has invented a building material more than 50 years ago, both of them have experienced enormous struggle to get to market. So we have a few years ago decided that we are going to do it. We are going to bring their products to market at cheap cost. So, and then now during the pandemic, one of the partners, they said, hey, can we transform the greenhouse to an emergency hospital? Yes, we can. So we can use that also for shelters, for refugee camps. So I heard you have people on board working with in refugee camps with 75,000 people, you mentioned. Wow, amazing. And our greenhouse can be transformed to shelters, both for homeless people in refugee camps, and basically also as regular houses in the future for low-cost housing. But that's another matter. Right now we're focusing on shelters for homeless people and refugee camps and emergency hospitals. So we are working to raise now funding to make very quickly. We are talking about the speed of light, a few weeks, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, gathering engineers together to transform this something which is called solar roof greenhouse, to transform it to these things, refugee camps solutions, and also for shelters for homeless people, including the possibility of producing food directly there very cheaply. So this is the innovation. And to bring this awareness to market and to fundraise, we have decided to have a worldwide some kind of music festival, which is supposed to start on May 24th, if everything goes well. We're working around the clock now. I haven't slept the past days, and dead tired. But the point is that we were originally planning to invite artists, musicians, and so on to this online event to play and sing and so on, dance, because we wanted also to raise money for these artists, which now many of them don't have any income. Their shows have been closed for a long time. And during one of the sessions earlier today, someone said, hey, why don't you do this for children also? Youths, yes. So after the webinar, I spoke with my group and we said, yes, absolutely youths, absolutely children. Yes, they can show, they can sing, they can dance as part of our initiative to raise even more awareness and engage entire families in entire communities worldwide. So yes, we will do this. So now when you tell me that you are part of a great big youth organization, we would very much like to have you on board as our partner in this, to invite everyone through your networks to participate now in this music gala, if you like.
Great. Thank you,
Great.
Rolf. That's a really exciting opportunity. And I think one of the excellent opportunities that the Catalyst 2030 platform provides is the ability for us to connect social entrepreneurs with other social entrepreneurs around the world. And of course, we've got this big group of youth who have been mobilized to tackle COVID. So that's a really exciting opportunity, Rolf. So we'll look forward to connecting with you afterwards to see how we can connect some members of our street team and perhaps others in the network with you as well. So thank you for that.
I know. Thanks, Rolf. I love you're in our Catalyst 2030 group. I know you joined us recently, and I have been avidly reading your WhatsApp messages because I think what you're doing is incredible, and we would love to join in. So we'll follow up, and we have some incredibly talented artists and musicians as well. I mean, the stories, as you can imagine, from a network, the scale and size of DOT. So thank you for that. And thank you for the phenomenal work you're doing as well at this critical time. Great.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat. We have one from Mariana, who's asking about what considerations are in place to support youth with some of the challenges that they face around safety and security in their communities. That's a really great question. So our youth street team is made up of young people who have developed their own initiatives, and we're supporting them to connect with organizations who can help them build best practices in those areas. So while DOT is not in a direct position to protect their safety and security ourselves, we really want to make sure that they are following best practices, and we're supporting them. A part of the point of the street team is to really support youth who have initiatives to make sure that those initiatives are safe and keeping people safe and secure, and that youth are not at risk as they go out into their communities. So we are connecting our street team to organizations that have these best practices and can offer guidance to their unique situations, because everybody's in a different community, in a very unique situation, and dealing with different scenarios. So that is actually a great opportunity for us to say that if you know of organizations that are focused on safety and security of particularly of youth, but of community outreach workers and frontline workers, that would be an amazing connection that you could support us to make to our youth community at DOT, because we do want to make sure that we are connecting them with the resources that are out there.
Yeah. And if I can add to that, Anne, because it's a very, very good question and very top of mind for us at DOT. The DOT network, the DOT model is we have local operations in every country, or in the majority of country where we operate. So we have offices that are now working from home, but they are staffed by local talented people, and many of them have been in the countries for years. DOT Rwanda is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Kenya's been operating for 14 years and more so. And so they are working virtually from home, but they are connected. So the Digital Opportunity Trust has certainly been an asset for us. And we've been around for 20 years almost. And these networks that Anne was talking about, the partnership ecosystems, and being able to tap into what is needed at a time like this to support youth. Our local country teams are amazing at facilitating that as well, or our partners in a number of the other countries. Thanks. Absolutely.
Thanks, Janet. So we have a question from Christina in Ottawa, Canada. So Christina asks, so what are some of the biggest lessons learned from individual street team members and how they're engaging their communities during the pandemic It's a great question. I know we do have some of our team members in the chat, so perhaps you can pop into the chat. I don't think we'll have time to get everyone onto the video screen, unfortunately, but you know, we've got Kelvin, Emmanuel, I see George. If you guys have thoughts about how you are engaging your communities, maybe put them into the chat. That would be great. And I see we have a hand up from Khalid. Khalid, go ahead if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello, man. It's
Hi.
my turn.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name is Khalid from Egypt. Thank you for meeting. Actually, I'm a music teacher actually in international schools and American schools in Egypt since 1999. I'm also member in UNESCO and member also with USAID, and I have very important project for education. I use music for multilingual teaching for all children. I contact with KG to grade 12 and old people also. I was also in Zimbabwe and was in Ghana. I was in Senegal and also contact with ministries of education in Africa. And also they need me support them for music curriculum because I'm music teacher in academy system. Then I can support. Let me how I can contact with you, LinkedIn or which website, because I have very important project. It will be support. Really, it will be support at this time. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid. That's wonderful. If you could put details about your initiative in the chat, if there's a Facebook group or another way that people can follow up and support you, that would be great.
Okay, I can contact with you, please, at LinkedIn if you have account.
Mm-hmm. Of course, please do.
The same, the right name, it's Annabelle Nelson. It's the same.
That's right.
Name?
Yeah, and I'll look you up afterwards as well.
Okay, I contact with you and then share with you what I have.
Sure.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy to do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Khalid. Wonderful. All right. So we have another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Who's going to speak?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I may not sure if the time is the same as we have here in the Philippines, but first I would like to commend Miss Janet and Miss Sharon for a wonderful speech, which I think is very useful for us you to hear now for this webinar. Actually, my question is something that would link for the students because I'm basically some coordinator for the schools, which aims is to have projects and future plans for the students. Mostly in this time wherein everyone's not so sure when to continue the classes. And basically here in the Philippines, it is vacation time, in which this COVID-19 appears or which seems to happen. So we are a little struggling about how we are able to connect or give some things to do for these students who are looking forward for their next school year or next class time. So I would like just to ask some of your opinions, or maybe if you have any suggestions on how we are able to coordinate continuously with the students and give a very productive things for them to just learn even in this kind of situations. That would be all, and thank you.
Thank you so much for the great question. I would actually like to see if we could get one of our youth street team members to respond to that. I know we have George Akilimali in the call, who's working on an education initiative, and he's got some great ideas about youth and student engagement. George, I'm not sure if you're able to come off of mute to answer that question about what are some ideas that you have come up with for engaging students virtually during the pandemic.
Hello.
Hi, George.
Hello, everyone.
Great, hi, George.
Yeah, so this is George from Tanzania. So I know it has been challenging for most of the schools and teachers to engage with students. And one thing which we try to do right now for some of the school is trying to figure out the best way to push either its content or its information for these students which are engaging. For example, I'll take an example of the case of Tanzania, what is happening. Like most of the school, they haven't been prepared to go digital. So what they do, they just push teaching notes to students. And these notes literally are not consumed well because most of the students are not prepared to handle the self-study. So the best way to do that is finding the easy to use platform where we can push most of the interactive content. Not exactly the notes and maybe the slides, but because for the sake of primary schools all the way to secondaries, these students they have that ability to learn under supervision, not to self-study. So we have to find the content which can actually help these students engage with them. So I know it's a challenge. I think for every learner right now, but I think the best way is to find the content which can be engaging to the student.
Thank you, George. And that was one of our call outs for partnering opportunities as well. And again, the beauty of the street team and a comment from our friend in the Philippines as well is that the ability to understand and know the local communities and the local context and be able to adapt, right, and innovate with that content. And just the way you've responded there just is so much, says to me all over again. I mean, the tech savvy talent of so many young people, it's a platform that is just so needed globally at this critical point in time. And so I'm sure you'll make a connection with our colleague from the Philippines as well, because it's easy to stay connected and keep sharing those ideas. Thanks, George. Stay well.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Mr. George. Yes.
Thank you.
It was such a relief to know that it's not only we youth here from the Philippines who are totally been a little problematic about that situation and how we'll be able to connect with the students. Also, just before I end my, I would like also to commend this youth from that youth about their concerns and the presence. I think I was able to jot down that one wherein they will be able to give some donations and informations or precautions for this business, because here in the Philippines, just a little sharing, it's one of the biggest problems since jail here are actually being consumed. I think threefold times number from the usual number of the prisons which has to be in a single jail. So the social distancing itself is a little difficulty for the prisons here, but I think I was really moved with the concept and the thought of this dot youth in helping and reaching out this prisons, which is one of those who are really needed in this very difficult situation. With that, thank you.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thanks again. And Catalyst 2030 has many social entrepreneurs from the Philippines. So we've got your details. We'll make another connection there as well to support you in your work.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, wonderful. So we have two comments, one from Imahira Ecotourism in Rwanda, and one from Eva in Ethiopia. And they're very similar questions. They are curious about how entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs are continuing their work virtually during the shutdown and isolation measures that are being taken. I think that that's an excellent question. If anyone has any thoughts on that, anyone from our youth network who has ideas about how they've approached that, please put up your hand or add something to the chat. I saw a hand up earlier from Karen, I think. Karen, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I also am just super excited to be here.
Hi, Karen. Okay.
So amazing.
I wondered if you would join. Okay.
I am. I'm super excited and super inspired. So I'm with International Bridges of Justice, and we work to give people who are accused of crimes a lawyer early on to protect them from torture and violence, and to basically to protect due process rights. So I was particularly excited to hear also from Sharon about just youth who are working in prisons at this point, and hoping that we can connect. We also have youth who are working on our side, who would love to support your youth who are doing this. So if there's a way we can connect afterwards, I think it's just going to be really inspiring work for everyone. And actually, you know, they are working, the youth are working, but a lot of our lawyers are older that they're working with, you know, like my age. And I think that they would be much more excited to be connecting with youth who are also supporting the work right now for people in prison. So thank you so much, and thank you for the inspiration. This is a really great session.
Great.
Amazing.
Thanks,
Thank you, Karen. We'll look
Yeah.
forward to making that connection. That sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've got through all the questions in the chat.
I was just going to add something in, if I may.
Of course.
Just around the point of how are social entrepreneurs moving to digital, and it's really fascinating because in the Catalyst 2030 network as well, this is one of the biggest needs. How can we move and innovate and look differently about at a time of physical distancing and everything else that's going on, delivered digitally. And so, you know, one of my responses to that, of course, is tap into the talent, just like Karen is saying, of young people, right, who can support you. We've got a group in Lebanon called Bot Lebanon, and they are extremely busy right now, supporting a large number of NGOs in Lebanon to build their digital capacities. And it's been a real scramble and a shift. And we want to say, and we believe that it can happen, and we need to, because the world has changed. Everything from learning has changed to how business is conducted, to, you know, how we are connecting has changed, and the digital piece is so critical. So again, this is a time that this generation of talent, of young women and men, need to be mobilized, certainly at a global scale.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So I think with that, we will wrap up. Thank you so much to Janet and to Sharon for sharing the great work that is going on in the DOT network. And thank you to our DOT Youth Street team who has been able to join us today. We see a whole bunch of you in the chat. Thank you to the Catalyst 2030 members who were able to join as well. I think there are a lot of really exciting connections that we'll be able to make here in support of youth and in support of your social enterprises to advance the SDGs, to tackle COVID-19, and to tackle other community issues as well. So we'll really look forward to continuing this conversation. My contact information is on the screen if you'd like to follow up, and I can help to facilitate those questions. And then I will also repaste the link to our Facebook group in the chat for everyone to join. That's another great way to stay connected with youth in our network. If you are a young person with an initiative anywhere in the world, please join us. We're sharing resources. We'll share out calls to join future street teams so that we can also support you to get partnerships as well. So it's a great resource for you. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. We will get through this. We're all in it together. And thank you for everything that you do every day. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Everyone.
Bye.